Today, after 15 months, Michigan's restaurants and other businesses are finally allowed to go back to normal. They can now run at full capacity again. Employers beware, a new survey says half of workers in the US are re-evaluating their career goals after the pandemic. And it seems like the market for talent is becoming more competitive. And Bitcoin takes a wild ride today, falling to a 5-month low at one point. It comes a day after China's central bank cracked down even more on cryptocurrencies. That and much more, coming up at NTD Business. Good evening, great to have you with us. It looks like people's attitudes toward work have changed since last year, and employers should get ready for an increasingly competitive talent market. Half of those polled in a Prudential survey said the pandemic has made them rethink their career goals. Respondents have also felt they now have more control over the direction of their careers, but a quarter said they're planning to look for a different job, with half of those saying they want a job that allows for both professional growth and a better work-life balance. At the same time, 53% said they would switch to a new field or industry if they had the opportunity to retrain. The findings suggest the market for talent is heating up, making it increasingly competitive for employers to attract top workers. And airline Delta plans to hire more than 1,000 new pilots. It says air travel is bouncing back from the pandemic, and so to handle the boom, Delta needs a bunch of new people to fly the planes. It's expected to hire the new pilots by next summer, and the announcement comes as air travel continues to grow. The Transportation Security Administration says it screened over 2 million people at airports across the country on Sunday, the most since March 2020. And European antitrust regulators opened a new investigation today into Google. They want to know whether its digital advertising business gives it an unfair advantage over smaller rivals and other advertisers. The European Commission said it would investigate if Google stifles competition by making use of user data for ads on websites and apps while restricting third-party access to the data. Google generated $147 billion in revenue from online ads last year. That's more than any other company in the world. Advertisers and rivals claim that Google plays a role in so many facets of the market, it's impossible to avoid it. But Google says thousands of European businesses use its ad products because they're competitive and effective. And Google's YouTube has won a copyright case in Europe's top court. The court says YouTube isn't responsible for users uploading unauthorized content. NTD's Patrick Hayden has more.
Google's YouTube has scored a copyright infringement win in Europe's top court. The court says online platforms are not responsible for uploads that breach copyright. That's unless YouTube fails to quickly block or remove access to the content. Europe's $1 trillion creative industry has a long-running battle with online platforms. They wanted redress for users uploading their copyrighted content without consent. A German music producer sued YouTube in 2008 for hosting unauthorized works of his, and another publisher, Elsevier, sued file hosting service Kayando in 2013 for the same reason. The EU Court of Justice ruled on both cases Tuesday. EU regulators are targeting tough new rules that could come into place next year for online platforms that would determine what social media responsibilities are, including how they should police the posting of unauthorized, illegal or hateful content. Patrick Hayden, NTD News, London.
And stocks finished higher on Wall Street today, with the Nasdaq ending at a record high lifted by big tech companies. It climbed 112 points, 0.8%. The Dow rose 69 points, 0.2%, while the S&P 500 gained 22 points, over 0.5%. And businesses in Michigan can finally return to normal. Restaurants and other businesses there can now go back to full capacity. Here's NTD's Evelyn Lee with more.
Michigan is fully open again. Starting Tuesday, restaurants, entertainment businesses, and other venues can once again operate at full capacity instead of just 50%.
It's time to play. It's time to have fun again.
Michigan is among the last states to lift gathering caps, and the business community was frustrated. They faced 15 months of capacity restrictions.
We're now operating in Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and it's very sad.
Business was booming for Munster's Action Park before the pandemic. Then he had to close business for 9 months. He and his parents are personally liable for a business loan, and he worried about losing everything. But now limits on large indoor gatherings are gone. So are mask requirements for unvaccinated people, a rule that remains in about a dozen states.
We're going to be able to start giving people that maybe for the last year and a half have been cooped up in their homes that sense of humanity, of joy, of connecting with people.
He says he has high hopes for the economy now. Gyms are among the businesses hoping to rebound. Alyssa Tushman co-owns Burn Fitness. She had to close one of the gyms for good. She says revenue and membership are down 60% across the industry.
Building a membership base isn't like just opening doors to a restaurant where people love to come back and get a bite. It takes time.
Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer and the Republican-led legislature are now debating how to use $6.5 billion in federal virus funding. A portion of it might go to businesses. Local governments are deciding how to use billions in federal relief too. Evelyn Lee, NTD News.
An investment firm Blackstone is betting even more on the single-family home rental business. It's buying Home Partners of America for $6 billion. Home Partners offers rent-to-own programs. It buys single-family homes and rents them to tenants who eventually will have the option to buy the home. The company owns more than 17,000 houses in the United States, and the deal is expected to close in the third quarter. And the foreclosure moratorium ends on June 30th, just 8 days. How many will be kicked out of their homes, and what can they do to prevent it? NTD's Arlene Richards talked to some experts.
With the foreclosure moratorium coming to an end on June 30th, a Harvard study says over 2 million homeowners could get kicked out of their homes. Here's how a foreclosure auctioneer who's conducted over 2,500 auctions describes people when their homes get foreclosed.
It can go from folks that don't understand what's happening to folks that are in denial to folks that have kind of accepted what's going on, and it's kind of the stages of grief.
For some owners, the accumulated deficit of mortgage, property taxes, insurance payments, and the outstanding loan balance is greater than the home's value itself. In such scenarios, a short sale is an option.
So we negotiate with their bank to take a loss at market value. So it actually no longer matters how much is actually owed. We get the bank to take the loss.
In a short sale, a homeowner sells to a buyer for less than what's due on the mortgage, with the lender dictating the terms. After the sale, the lender usually takes the loss and the homeowner is no longer responsible. Wells Fargo plans on continuing the moratorium till the end of the year, but J.P. Morgan, Bank of America, and others are starting it immediately on June 30th. One real estate investor says he hopes there won't be another extension.
You're going to have a buildup of foreclosures, and you're going to have a buildup of evictions coming to where the courts aren't going to be able to handle either. There's going to be such a backlog. And then what you're going to have is a flood of inventory hit the gate, which we don't want in real estate because you're going to have issues with home pricing really falling.
If you're facing foreclosure, experts suggest filing for bankruptcy to stop it, applying for a loan modification, or hiring an attorney to stall the process. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
And the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell says the Fed won't raise interest rates on fear of inflation alone, even though prices have already risen sharply this year, with many blaming the Fed's loose money policies. Powell was defending the Fed's pandemic response on Capitol Hill today. During the pandemic, the Fed cut interest rates to near zero, allowing the government to borrow more cheaply and take on more debt, which it happily did. But even at low rates, interest payments are still significant and are a significant drag on economic growth. But some worry that raising rates will hamper borrowing and slow down the recovery. That's the flip side. So what to do? Ask Lance Roberts at Real Investment Advice.
It's an interesting story, where somebody comes in, they want to lose weight quick, right? So they go to the doctor and they say, Doc, can you have a pill or something to help me lose weight quick? You didn't get overweight overnight, right? We didn't get into this debt problem overnight, and we're not going to get out of it overnight. But you're going to have to start making those steps to where you start reducing the amount of debt expenditure that you have, start focusing on revenue back into the government. That's taxes, that's creating economic prosperity. If you create economic prosperity, that creates more tax revenue because people are earning more money. You're going to have to focus on the things that create economic growth and stop inhibiting capitalism from functioning. And that's one thing we've been doing very poorly, really, since the financial crisis. We keep having to bail banks out. We keep getting told how strong banks are, but every time we have a downturn in the economy, we have to bail the banks out. We have to bail out corporations because they can't survive and we can't afford to let them go bankrupt. But yes, we can. That's capitalism. Capitalism has a very nasty Darwinian effect. The strong survive, the weak will perish, but that creates opportunity for growth. And if we stop bailing things out, that means less debt issuance allows the economy to function. We reverse excesses that allows economic prosperity to bloom. From that standpoint, it's painful to go through that process. We've stopped 2 recessionary periods, 2008, 2009, and the 2020. We've stopped those 2 recessionary periods from occurring, and that's only impeding our ability to grow forward.
But we find ourselves in this interesting paradox because you say, and correctly so, a lot of people are blaming capitalism for the problem. So looking at the trends, not just in places like Washington, but really among the masses, do you feel we're going to continue down the socialist route, or you feel that we're going to continue down this free market route that you're describing?
Well, you need to go down the free market route. That's what's created the wealth in the economy. When you look at the U.S. relative to the rest of the world, you may not realize this, but if you make $33,000 a year, now in the U.S., that doesn't seem like you're making very much money, and people would complain about being at the bottom end of the wage earner stack in the U.S. You're in the top 1% of income earners worldwide on $33,000. The wealth of the United States is head and shoulders, not just a little bit more, but head and shoulders above any other country in the world. We are a very prosperous nation because of capitalism. The transition to socialism does not create equality of wealth. Everybody's talking about this whole idea of equality of opportunity and equality of outcomes. That means, very simply, everybody at the low, if you're equal in outcome and equal in opportunity, you're at the very bottom of the productivity scale. That's where it's equal. It's not equal where you have capitalism involved. There are winners and there are losers, but that's what makes capitalism work. And what we've transitioned to is not capitalism, but corporatism, where we're bailing out companies, we're providing a benefit for the wealthy executives of the U.S., we're providing an opportunity for banks to usurp an entire industry. That's not capitalism. That's corporatism, and that's a different problem that we do need to solve. But socialism isn't the answer. That means that everybody is equally poor, and there's still a very rich, unequal 1% that will rule the economy in a socialist society.
Lance Roberts, Real Investment Advice. And Iranian police have reportedly seized 7,000 Bitcoin mining machines from an illegal crypto farm, as according to Iranian state media. It also says it's their largest seizure of crypto mining machines ever. Iran banned crypto mining late May. They claim it's to avoid blackouts and said the crypto mining is using up too much electricity during summer. One blockchain analytics firm says around 4.5% of all Bitcoin mining takes place in Iran. And it was a wild ride for Bitcoin today. At one point, all its gains for the year were wiped out, but then it turned positive again. Comes as the Chinese regime cracks down even more on cryptocurrencies. NTD's Patrick Hayden speaks to one crypto expert who says the crackdown is actually good for the West.
Bitcoin briefly dropped to less than $30,000 on Tuesday for the first time since January. That's as the Chinese Communist Party continues cracking down on the mining of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. It says it's for environmental concerns. But one crypto expert says there is another reason. The Chinese regime has its own digital currency, the digital yuan, and it's already testing it in various Chinese cities.
And I don't think that it's any coincidence that the recent crackdown on Bitcoin mining was one of the cities that was targeted was Sichuan. And Sichuan also happens to be one of the pilot cities for the digital yuan.
Jamali says the regime wants to ensure its own digital currency will take off. He says the recent crackdown is telling, and free enterprise has a cost in China.
And I think it really speaks to the point that free enterprise is viewed by the central government in Beijing as a gift almost, rather than an actual human right. So I just think that it really drives home the point that free markets don't really exist in China.
He says China's crackdown is a good opportunity for Western businesses to venture into mining. and it's something the US and Canada are opening up to.
Particularly free market countries to do, is to be able to really sink their teeth into help building the architecture of digital assets and really start to own the infrastructure for Bitcoin.
He says China's energy usage narrative for cracking down on Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies is convenient for them, but it doesn't speak to the truth on the ground. Patrick Hayden, NTD News.
So China and Iran cracking down on Bitcoin, but El Salvador in Central America is embracing it with open arms. It's the first country to classify it as legal tender, meaning businesses will have to accept it as payment. You can even pay your taxes in it. One of the world's top currency experts, Professor Steve Hanke, says it offers no benefit for El Salvador's economy and could even be harmful. He says El Salvador adopted the US dollar as official currency over 2 decades ago and has benefited from the lowest levels of inflation in South America. And he says Bitcoin is just a highly volatile speculative asset. So I asked why El Salvador is doing it then. Who's benefiting?
The only people that are going to benefit are the ones obviously supplying the ATM machines that they only have 2 ATM machines in El Salvador that take Bitcoin. And one of the companies said they plan on providing 1,000 more ATM machines. So of course, that's a good deal for them unless they give it to the country. But the risks are tremendous because the government claims they're going to set up a trust fund to guarantee that nobody makes a loss when they are transacting. They're being forced into transacting in Bitcoin. So the question is, well, what if Bitcoin's price plunges in the time between the transaction when you're buying shoes or whatever, have groceries or what happens to be, and the time it takes to exchange that Bitcoin for greenbacks? Well, maybe there's a loss. The government says we'll cover those losses, and that is a big risk to the taxpayers. That trust fund could be wiped out instantly, as volatile as a Bitcoin price is.
Have you ever seen an initiative like this before?
No. No, it is the first one. Plus the fact that what's really going to happen, what happens with Bitcoin, there'll be laundering bags of dirty Bitcoin. It's going to be a money laundering operation of the highest order, inviting a lot of corruption and criminality. And the Financial Action Task Force is going to be all over this thing, like a wet blanket. The banks will have big problems in El Salvador now because the banks, according to this law, are going to be forced to be transacting and using Bitcoin. But there's no way banks will be able to know their customers. There's something called a know your customer rule that banks have to follow for large transactions. And there's no way they will be able to accommodate this requirement. And as a result, they won't meet the specifications of the Financial Action Task Force, and they'll be in deep trouble, the banks. So the banks have a risk, the taxpayers have a risk, and I think ultimately the one that's going to take a beating of this is the cryptocurrency crowd. The evangelicals are all excited. This is this great, the world's first, and so forth. It's going to end up being a disaster, an unneeded disaster, and I think it will give cryptocurrencies a bad name.
Do you feel this is why we see countries like Iran and China really doing a 180 and going the opposite direction?
Well, Iran and China are trying to deep six Bitcoin because of the money laundering aspects of the thing. It's a convenient way to launder money, or maybe it isn't so convenient, but it is a way, and it's used. The biggest actual use of Bitcoin is for illicit activities, illicit kind of transactions, whether you call it money laundering. It's the dark forces. And I think if we look and scratch hard enough, and ask, well, why would El Salvador be tangled up in something like this? It makes absolutely no sense. They have the best currency in the world. The international currency is a greenback. That's what everybody wants in Latin America. It's official since 2001 in El Salvador. And so you have to ask, well, why did the government get behind this? Why did the Congress pass it with an overwhelming majority? Those are questions that should be answered.
Professor Steve Hankey, Johns Hopkins University. And still to come this evening. NASA is teaming up with Tide to develop ways to wash your clothes in space. Right now, astronauts can only throw away clothing that gets too dirty. And Sotheby is accepting cryptocurrency as payment for a rare diamond being auctioned next month. It says the move opens up the sale to people who wouldn't otherwise participate. That and more after this short break.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm gonna pass the savings directly on to you. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Hi folks, Joe Namath here, and if you're on Medicare, this is important. You're now entitled to eliminate co-pays and get dental care, dentures, eyeglasses, prescription coverage, in-home aids, unlimited transportation, and home-delivered meals, all at no additional cost. Plus, your zip code may have coverage with the Give Back benefit that adds money back to your Social Security check every month.
I called to get dental, transportation, meals, and the Give Back benefit.
With this virus situation, I called to get everything I'm entitled to. I couldn't believe I was missing out on so many benefits.
With the uncertainty of the virus, you need to get everything you're entitled to. Millions of people have trusted the Medicare Coverage Helpline. You can too. Call now. It's free.
Call 1-800-764-1930. That's 1-800-764-1930 now.
Welcome back. NASA is teaming up with Tide to find a way to keep clothes clean in space and extend the lifespan of clothing on the International Space Station that would normally just be thrown out. Astronauts work out 2 hours a day to maintain muscle and bone health, but all that exercise leads to sweaty, dirty clothes and no way to clean them. They just wear them until they get unbearably filthy and then just throw them away as space cargo trash. So NASA wants clothes in space to have the longevity of clothes on Earth, and Tide's parent company will send clothes cleaning experiments into space to see if there are any issues, while also developing a washer and dryer for low-water environments. And McDonald's is launching its first ever U.S. rewards program nationwide, where customers get free food when they first sign up. But still, not everyone is a fan. NTD's Phil Zoe has what you need to know.
McDonald's is finally launching its rewards program in the U.S. Customers will get 100 points for every dollar spent. After spending $15 or earning 1,500 points, customers can redeem for items such as a cheeseburger or a vanilla ice cream cone.
McDonald's, like a lot of their competitors, makes it easy to earn free items.
Over a dozen of items are available, separated into 4 reward tier groups.
Why not? I mean, business purposes, it makes sense, you know. Why not reward your faithful customers for eating there, you know?
But not everyone is a fan.
The food kind of makes me sick when I have it.
Ben prefers going to other restaurants.
I would eat it more, but in truth, I feel so bad after having it. And why not go to Shake Shack or somewhere that's even better? It makes me feel just as bad.
The program is set to launch nationwide by July 8th.
McDonald's was one of those companies that actually did quite well throughout the pandemic as people were looking for affordable dining options.
McDonald's shares are up about 9% since the beginning of the year. It has a market value of around $180 billion.
So many low-income people are just not able to get a good meal, so they're eating at places like McDonald's that are just horrible for them and just, in truth, just terrible for their health.
Customers who make their first purchase on the new McDonald's Rewards program will get 1,500 points. If you save enough points, you might be able to redeem one of the top-tier prizes, such as a Big Mac or a Happy Meal. Phil Zhou, NTD News, New York.
You could buy a rare pear-shaped diamond at Sotheby's next month if you're a multimillionaire. It's expected to fetch up to $15 million, and they're expecting cryptocurrency as payment. It's another first for the emerging asset. Chris Dingham has the details.
Sotheby's announced on Monday that a rare pear-shaped diamond that is expected to fetch up to $15 million can be bought at auction next month using cryptocurrencies. Sotheby's said it would be the first time a diamond of such size has been offered for public purchase with cryptocurrency, adding that no other physical object of such high value has been available for sale with the digital asset. The 101.38 carat diamond, dubbed the Key 10138, is one of just 10 diamonds of more than 100 carats ever to come to auction, only 2 of which were pear-shaped. Sotheby's said the name of the flawless diamond is intended to reflect the integral role that keys occupy in the world of cryptocurrencies. It carries a pre-sale estimate of $10 to $15 million and will be sold on July 9th in Hong Kong. Bitcoin or Ether, as well as traditional money, will be accepted as payment.
It's our opinion that with cryptocurrency, you're able to have new clients who maybe had not previously been looking at auctions for objects, works of art, diamonds, coming to us and being potential purchasers for this stone.
Cryptocurrencies have had a volatile year with explosive growth and major tumbles. Regulators and policymakers all over the world have warned about the emerging assets volatility and that Bitcoin facilitates money laundering and other illicit uses. But regardless, crypto has seen broader adoption.
La ley de Bitcoin.
El Salvador this month became the first country to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender. And in the United States, the National Republican Congressional Committee last week said it will accept donations in cryptocurrency. Sotheby's in May sold a Banksy for $12.9 million in cryptocurrency, the first instance of a work of physical art sold by a major auction house that was bought with the decentralized currency.
As the latest business updates for today, you can still catch NTD Evening News with Stephanie Cox. That's at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. For NTD Business, that's all for today. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
We have a new channel. Subscribe to us on YouTube at NTD News. Get the highlights of our news broadcast and the most important headlines that we curate especially for you.
Don't let YouTube decide what information you get. That's your choice. YouTube is deleting our videos and cuts you off from a source of honest reporting. Make sure you don't lose access to NTD's news content and take a quick moment to subscribe to our newsletter so no matter what happens here, you'll keep your access to a trustworthy news source.